Welcome to the Storyfield. This is a podcast created and sponsored by the Allen Firm. This is Josh Allen, and I'm joined by Micah Petrie. I think you'll agree that life is complex, business is hard, and living a life of faith can feel complicated. We know it's discouraging when movement in your life or business or faith has stopped. Well, you're in the right place to hear some great stories of normal people just like us who will inspire you to move forward in life. So thank you for joining us. Today, we know you're going to be encouraged. Hey, welcome to the Storyfield. Today, I'm so excited. We have a super awesome young person named Nathan Hutson. Nathan, how old are you anyway?
I'm 21.
Okay.
Dude, did you really have to do the whole age thing?
I needed to know because I'm saying that because I believe Nathan has experienced some of the most unique experiences in his 21 years of living than most of us have had, So it's just pretty cool. So here's where we're going. A few highlights I want to dive into, Nathan. He's lived in 14 different locations or addresses around the country. He was a professional rock climber. So we have a lot of questions on that because that's not something that we encounter much here in Central Texas. So you've spent a large amount of your time traveling the world, rock climbing and world missions. And we were laughing beforehand. I didn't want this to be a spoiler alert, but you just at pursuing God's plans for your life, you just dropped out of college. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew before we threw you under the bus. And then really, Nathan, you hear and really are used by God in a very cool and unique way. So, man, we are honored to interview you today. I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be with you guys and to share my story, be able to share my testimony and what I've seen, and just to encourage someone else out there.
That's great. All right. So, man, I want to know kind of the 14 different addresses across the country. So, give us a little bit of your early, childhood and where all this moving.
Yeah. So I grew up in an Air Force family. And so I was born in Williamsburg, but 6 months later, I was in Hawaii. And then I moved back to Virginia for like 6 months. Then it was back and forth from Ohio, Virginia, but different parts for a while. And then I moved over to Colorado as the most recent place. That's where I graduated high school. I moved my junior year of high school to Colorado, but majority of my time was spent in Ohio, going through most of middle school, and then my freshman through junior high school. But then lived in Colorado for my senior year, and then that's where I found missions. So kind of like where that 14 different addresses all kind of fell into place right there.
Hey, so 14's a lot. Which was your favorite? I'm pitting the states against each other.
My favorite would have to be Colorado.
Yes. We like Colorado too.
Always been for the mountains. And when I had the opportunity to be living so close to them, I had my whole entire backyard was the mountains, so I could go play whenever.
Man, but what's it? So encourage somebody who has been in a military family like that, because from what I understand, that's pretty difficult. I mean, to kind of feel never like you have a home.
Yeah,
permanently. I mean, how did that feel like?
You learn how to pack or travel really light. You go into a new school or a new community, never knowing how long you're going to be there. So you make friendships, but you make them for short term. It kind of feels like, because you never know how long you're actually going to be in town, until if we're going to get deployed to somewhere else, or we just pick up everything and move. So sometimes it's hard. It's difficult because you're a new kid in school and you don't know anyone, but you have to try to make as many friendships as you can, or at least one, and then know that you're going to be moving. So it's kind of a short-term friendship.
How can people in school like help somebody like you guys? Just kind of adopt them as a friend, or what would you give some advice?
walking into school and knowing that there's a military kid, just welcome them
Yeah,
in.
yeah, just like a new person, even like just a brand new or military
Yeah,
even.
take them and show them the ropes around this town. Show them like where to eat, where, what to do, where are the fun things to do, where to like. The big thing was where to eat, where do all the students hang out, what teachers, how do you know that get to know the teachers, but so this is like getting to know everyone. So if someone in a school system or even a family allowing their kids just to grow up really quick and to allow them to make the decisions on what friend groups and allow them to go try new things.
That's good. Yeah, so you said so you graduated high school in Colorado, but I'm a little fuzzy on was that where you spent most of your time? Or did you move from Ohio and then like the last year in Colorado and then you graduated?
Yeah, so I was in Ohio from my fourth grade year all the way to my junior year of high school. And then right, the summer in between my junior and senior year of high school, we moved to Colorado.
Gotcha.
So in Ohio, we've kind of already mentioned that this whole rock climbing thing. Were you rock climbing in Ohio, or did you wait until you get to Colorado to do that?
I was actually climbing in Ohio. I got into climbing in Ohio from one of the guys who went to church with. He's like, hey, I started going to this climbing gym. I kind of enjoy it. You want to come check it out? I was like, yeah, let's go check it out. So we went climbing, got me hooked. And then all the way through my eighth grade year of high or middle school into my junior year of high school, I was rock climbing. That eighth grade year, I got picked up from a couple companies.
Dang.
One was Friction Labs. So I climbed with them for a year. And then my freshman year of high school, I got picked up with El Sportiva, which is a big Italian rock climbing brand, mountaineering brand in Italy.
Well, I was going to crack some jokes about you like rock climbing on silos and barns, but I guess you were like legit, so never mind.
Yeah, yeah, you're professional. That's the first time I met Nathan, I was like, wait, is there mountains up there like for you to climb? So I had the same question, like, how does that happen?
No, there's no mountains. It's all cornfields and
That's what I thought.
like silos, what you were saying.
So
I really got into like urban climbing for a while, just climbing big buildings or big skyscrapers or cranes. Just to, I was
So you're
filling a void, but I didn't have mountains
you're
to
one of
climb.
those guys that like breaks into the half-built buildings to just so you can climb it.
Yeah, it was not the best things to be talking about, but it was done.
So when you're a freshman, like that's when the first somebody picked you up, you said, like, how does that work? Like like how did they find you or how'd you get on the radar and what did it mean to get picked up and actually become, a professional at that age? Like,
Yeah, so since my friend took me to the climbing gym the first time, I fell in love with it. And then I started going to like small competitions in Ohio and Indiana and up in Chicago area. So I was starting to travel every other weekend.
you were
Doing,
you were 14. I mean,
yeah, I was 14, 15 years old
huh.
before I even had a driver's license. So I'd catch rides with friends or I don't know. I just find my way up to different climbing spots and then I started going outside in Red River Gorge in Kentucky, where I fell in love with outside climbing, with the sandstone out there. Just a huge community of climbers and guys who are living out of their vans and just that's their full-time job and they're climbing. So I fell in love with the sport, fell in love with the community, and started from there. So
Did your friend who invited you, did the gym and the friends, did they like show you like the basics to start? I mean, I'm trying to
yeah,
get my head
kind of.
around. Yeah, how
It
do
was
you
just kind of threw me into it and I just picked it up as I went. And then more and more I climbed, the more I learned. And then the more I learned, the more opportunities I had to go climb. And especially once I went outside and started climbing, that's when everything started making sense, on why you do certain things, why you train a certain way. And this is where I actually started to learn what training was. And then I was like, all right, I can do good here, but if I train, I can get better. And then I was excelling in competitions. So like my 8th grade year, I started picking up competitions and really started in bouldering, which is like 15-foot walls that you're climbing with no gear. And it's usually really technical. And then when I went into outside, I fell in love with sport climbing, which is when you do have gear, when you're clipping into the rock, and you're carrying gear up as you go. So I fell in love with that because I like endurance sports. I've been running cross country started in middle school all the way through high school, ran track as well. But the endurance, I really enjoyed that.
I got to give a shout out real quick to Nathan's friends back then, because I know my friends back in that age. There's no way I'm climbing outdoors at all, because if I'm trying to listen to them, I'm falling off the mountain, the hill, the car, whatever it is. Way to go, Nathan's friends.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't be here right now.
No.
If that was the case. So then at the competitions, these teams or these groups would have people there watching, and they called you. I mean, what was the first call like? I mean, hey, 9th grade or so, they called you and said, we want you to start climbing under our sponsorship. Is that how it works? Or
Yeah, so it was kind of like a college scout first, where they went to a competition. It's like, hey, I want to be at this comp. Come check me out. Like I'm competing in this age group and at this time. And they came and watched, and they signed me a contract while I was just waiting for the next round. And so my final round, my freshman year of high school, I got signed on to for Friction Labs, and it's a chalk company. And they picked up a couple other people there while they were there, but there was only 4 or 5 of us in the East Coast under their name. So it's pretty cool to be signed on with that, but also something so different of, all right, I'm signing this, but now I get to go to this place and climb, or I get to go to, let's say, Germany, or I get to go to Switzerland, or I get to go to across the country to go climb in Colorado or Utah. And they pay for travel, and I'll go climb and go check it out, and then report back to the company, and then they post videos or take pictures. And
that's amazing. Was that your first experience with that first group? Did they send you overseas as well, or was it with the Italian
I went
group?
once. I went to Greece for my first trip, but it was super low key. It was only for 2.5 days, and then I came back. So it was just like a immersion of what international climbing is, and seeing what it was for the first time being 15 years old. So I was traveling and checking out countries by myself. Once I got to country, I picked up with some people, but it was just that first instance of traveling. It really sparked my life, which I'm going to continue traveling for the rest of my life now.
Yeah, it's such part of your story. It's really neat. Were your parents okay with this? Like, I mean, I think just
Somewhat.
kids, yeah, like thinking sending, our daughters or our sons, who are in similar ages is over there, by
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, they were fine with it. It was hard at first with them, but then it just became normal, and I was just traveling a lot, became a lot my sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, so and that's when the Italy company got you out.
Yeah.
And then did you have a coach over there, or how does it work practically?
Yeah, so my coach was from Italy. And then so weekly he would send me work plan or workout plans. I'd be at the gym before school, and then I'd run cross country, and then I'd go back to the gym after practice. So I was on varsity team running cross country, and then about 8 hours a day in the climbing gym. Every day, 6 days a week, had Sundays off. My coach I would send him videos of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I need techniques. And then also I had a trainer in Ohio who I hired on to help me out with just basic understanding of reading routes, how to train, form, and different exercises. But my main coach was from Italy on El Sportiva team, constantly getting me better. And I was going into my junior year of high school. I was pretty strong in the sport of climbing. It was my peak year. Being able to travel a lot outside, setting some really cool routes where people have never even climbed before, and then getting to know different cultures. So
how many out of country trips, I mean, estimate do you think you had at that point, like through what is it, El Captiva?
El Sportiva.
El Sportiva, sorry.
Yeah. How many trips?
Yeah,
How
just
many
like,
countries?
yeah, good question. Let's go with how many countries?
I've been to 39 countries now, I think. I don't know. I think I hit 40, but I'm not really sure anymore. I have to do a recount.
And that was mostly, I mean, we'll get into the world race. I want to hear about that, but was that mostly through your climbing experience?
Yeah, it was all for climbing.
So would it be like a fly out on a weekend, stay a whole
I
week,
would
come
fly
back,
out
or?
usually on a Thursday, and then I get back late Sunday night, and then just in time for school. So I would skip Thursday and Friday, take classes on the road. My teachers um, would send me the PowerPoint or the paper, and then when I get back to in class on Monday, I would take the test. I just take it like a day later than everyone else.
So you were considered like a pro. So I mean, I'm assuming that they're paying for your coaches. They're getting you gear to make sure you're all up to spec and whatnot. And then I'm assuming you're making a salary.
Um, not really a
mean,
salary. They
well,
were
I
just paying
mean,
for everything else. I made like
okay,
150, $200 a month.
yeah, but they pay for
But
everything else.
yeah,
But
So
you
that's
travel the world so far through the company, essentially.
yeah.
Well, man, I'm sure you have some extra gear laying around. You might have to send some to the guys on the podcast with you.
nobody wants to see me be climbing a mountain, Josh.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
Not
sure?
even that one that's behind the
I know.
cabin in Colorado.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to some basics on rock climbing because I mean, obviously I really don't know anything about it. So you said there was the bouldering
Yep.
and that's one type, and then the sport climbing. Are
Yep.
those the two kind of main roads, or is there what
Yeah,
else
those
is
are
there?
the two main ones, and then there's a couple off that. There's 6 different kind of climbing. So there's bouldering, there's sport climbing, there's trad climbing, which is where you place your own gear instead of having bolts already drilled into the rock. Then you have ice climbing, which is very cold. And then you have multi-pitch. And then you just have your regular alpine climbing and then speed climbing. So 7.
So which one is the most? Which one is like the North Face guys?
North Face guys
Or
are,
sorry, not North Face guys, the Everest guys.
yeah,
The ice
so that's
climbing.
more alpine climbing.
Okay.
And then like climbing El Cap or a multi-pitch, like big routes in California or over in the Middle East. That's multi-pitch, where it's 42 to 60 route pitches. And a pitch is how long a rope can go until where you have to bring your belayer up to a certain point so you can climb to the next stage. So it's broken up into stages.
So you guys know this. I mean, you've studied the routes and you know it, and you know I'll have to have a different rope for a different pitch a lot of times.
So you have one rope, and usually you have two people. You have your climber, then you have your belayer. Your climber climbs up about 25 feet to 50 feet, kind of in that range, places gear, and then the belayer climbs up and meets the climber. So they switch roles, and then the climber goes again. So it's a ladder, and they just
Work their way up.
work yourself up.
What's the most dangerous top?
Free climbing without any gear,
Yeah,
which I stayed away from.
yeah. I mean, people doing multi-pitch climbing without any gear.
Yeah. So like Alex Arnold or Tommy Caldwell has done a little bit, but not too much.
I think Arnold Schwarzenegger did one of those
Yeah.
in Cliffhanger as well. So
Oh yeah.
that may not have been climbing. He may have jumped out of an airplane or something.
I think
Never-
it was Chris
never mind.
Sharma who did that stunt
Yeah.
climbing there.
Yeah. So, the people who go up and put their own gear in, I mean, are you free climbing to that point? I mean,
To an
essentially,
extent. So trad climbing is where you have these things called cams or T-nut or T-nuts. And you put them in cracks or you put them into little crevices in the rock face. And then you place them accordingly so that they don't, when you do fall, you fall into the gear that's placed into the cracks. And they're only held by friction compared to sport climbing or multi-pitch climbing, where it's a bolt and then you clip a carabiner onto it. So if you fall, it's a little bit more sturdy and you're not risking your life every time you place a piece of gear.
and I like that you said when you fall instead of if you fall. So, I mean, that's a given, is it not? I mean,
You're gonna fall at some point or another. It's like you try not to fall, but most of the time you are gonna fall. There's a season called projecting. It's a season when you go check out a climb and you get up on it and you try as many times until you get all the moves down and memorizing them until you can climb the whole route without falling. And then there's red point, where you climb to a certain point and you fall, and that's a red point. So you didn't make it to the top, but you made it halfway. So your halfway point would be your red point. Or a flash is when you climb the whole route without even falling.
it's just so much. It's amazing to think how much goes into it. I mean, you really wouldn't know it without being involved in the sport. So a lot of the climbers, when they're doing these big climbs, I mean, they will how long will they spend at the mountain?
Depends on how many pitches, if it's a multi-pitch, how long, how technical it is. So all climbing or sport climbing is based on a 5-point scale, and the hardest route is 515 C, I think it is, or D, I think it is right now. And the easiest is a 5.1 or 5.1, where it's just walking on a flat surface. So you kind of get that gauge of hardness. And depends on how technical, how long the route is, how many moves is on the route, and how much gear you have to haul. Like some multi-pitch routes, you're up on the wall for a week at a time, or somewhere there might be a 2-pitch route where you don't have to carry any gear, but the holds are super small. Rock is super slick. Like limestone is super slick to climb on, or granite sometimes is very slick depending on the season, or how much the rock swells with the weather. So,
Yeah.
and weather conditions means a lot too. So if it's too hot, the rock fit and it's right in the sun, you're gonna burn your skin off, and it's very uncomfortable to stay on the rock or even hold on to it.
And have you climbed El Capitan
I have
more than once?
just once. That's
Okay.
good enough for me.
So tell us about that.
It's a six. I did it in 6 days, where Alex Arnold and Tommy Caldwell have done it in less than 2 hours. It's I forget how many pitches it is exactly, but it was 6 days, spending the night on the wall, and a week long climbing trip. It gets miserable. You're exhausted halfway up. When you're waking up in the middle of the night having to use the restroom and you look over and you have to pee off a cliff that's
Yeah.
2,000 feet up. It's a little, your heart starts to bounce a little bit.
What do they call those? Your tent that's on the mountain again?
uh,
I forget the name of it. It slips me. I mean, but you're carrying your whole tent and
yeah,
all your gear up the mountain for just a week on the
right.
wall.
Man, I'm blanking the name of that at the moment, what it's called.
We remember in a minute.
Yeah.
So you had to haul that up with
Yep.
you. I mean, and all the gear. How many people were with you doing that trip?
I climbed El Capitan with 6 people. 1 photographer, 5 climbers.
Were y'all all in the tent? I mean,
No, we had separate tents. So I actually had a single person one. And others shared it. I like having my own.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Is it called a porta ledge?
Yeah, that's one name
Yeah.
for it.
So the first time did you practice sleeping in that thing?
I went to my climbing gym before it would open in the mornings. And then I would practice setting it up, being on the wall, and then I'd also practice just setting it up on the ground for efficiency. So it took a while for me to get used to it.
That's
Yeah, I don't know. I
incredible.
move around too much. I would fall off the side or fall out or
Do you have
something.
to be harnessed in, I guess? I mean,
Yeah, you are harnessed in, you're clipped in with a carabiner.
did you sleep good?
The fourth night I
mean-
did. The first couple nights I did not.
Not for. So you're wiped out all day. Is that a get up really early, start
Yeah, so
climbing?
usually you wanted to, when I climbed it, it was a season where the sun was setting behind El Cap. And so I wasn't climbing in the middle of the day and being burned off the wall, but I was climbing more in the mornings into the mid-afternoon, and then I rested the evening, made dinner, and then I'd rest the night. But wake up around 6:30 and climb to about 2:30.
So what would you guys eat? I mean, just jet boiled
Um,
stuff and dehydrated food?
I packed a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And then I also packed some dehydrated food and some rice and beans, mostly beans.
Yeah. No Cliff Bars. I bet y'all got tired of Cliff Bars and stuff.
I had a few.
That's wild. Well, tell me about the community, the climbing community.
Yeah, it's definitely a different community. I have to say that first. It's a community that welcomes a lot of people, but it's also a community that really needs Jesus. That's what I kind of fell in love with, where just started climbing, and I was a young life leader, and I always felt like the climbing community was like my next group of guys or something like that.
Mhm.
Whoever I got to meet up with traveling or at the climbing gym, just getting to know the guys, or the females who climbed, um, just getting to know them and share them love or show them what love is.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the climbing community is a free spirited kind of community.
And do they
Hippies
like
that
live in vans, like literally, like?
Yep, full-time van people, and find like ski bums is the best way I
Yeah.
can describe them,
Yeah.
but in the climbing community.
Yeah, I was
So
just thinking of like
climbing,
skateboarders in California or surfers.
yeah,
What
I'd
did, how
say
did what do they do for
same.
money?
Some of them work at restaurants, pick up odd end jobs. Some of them climb full time and get paid for it. Some are photographers. Some people have real jobs, but not many.
Yeah. So they're
For
they're
most people,
literally
you
they're
see a
literally just
lot.
chasing their. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
You see a lot of guys work at climbing gyms.
Yeah, I was thinking most people. I mean, it seems like they're literally chasing their dream. I mean, they're living in their what they know is their most passion. I mean,
Right.
then travel around a lot. I mean, just kind of going all over the country and
Yeah.
just taking your house with you. So let's get into. I want to hear about your faith journey. So we were talking a little bit beforehand. It just kind of you were saying like there was 3 services maybe you went to a week. Like,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about this.
So after my junior year of high school, um, I retired or I ended my contract with climbing since I moved to Colorado. Um, and I really just wanted to be still for a while and not have to travel. Um, one, I was exhausted. And then two, I actually wanted to build a community. Um, and so I fell in love with, well, leading young life all the way through high school. Um, just always been in the church, I grew up Methodist, um, which I'm far from Methodist now, but just being able to have the baseline of the church and being growing up in it was awesome. And then as my senior year of high school, I was starting to hear from the Lord very slowly and starting to have a basic understanding of the Lord's voice. Um, and I started with my community I was building in Colorado. They all love Jesus, and they invited me to a couple different churches. I went to church with my parents for one service. I went to a service before with my family, by myself, where I was starting to build a community with college students. Because at that time I was right after high school. I started school, so I was starting to build up some college friends and community. And then also a third service in the evening was solely for worship. It was upper room in Denver, and I was going there for worship and just to be surrounded by people who love the Holy Spirit and love Jesus. And
So when you say like you started to learn like how to hear the Lord, like explain that a little bit. I mean, for
yeah,
people who are listening to, that might be a pretty foreign concept. You never know.
yeah, it's something really cool, and it's a gift that the Lord gives to people, hearing from Him. But everyone is able to hear from Him, which
Mm.
is the best thing that we serve and why we serve Him. Um, First, it started for me really small of Him saying certain words or giving me a vision, and then it slowly went into every day. I'm walking into it, and listening to what he has to say about situations or about people, or going to him um, over my opinions or over my thoughts.
Mm.
Um,
Is it just a quiet thought or something you see or something? I mean, I don't. I know there's not a clear, there's not a formula, but just to you, like, what is it? Like,
yeah,
what does he
so
sound like?
um,
Or, how does he communicate to you?
yeah, so the Lord really communicates with me with words, shows me words and visions, and then also just visions in general. It could be super random, but could also be really precise. Um, on like at this time this is going to happen, or just I'm going to see this person in a vision in the early morning, and then the person actually comes into like a shop or a coffee shop later that afternoon, and then the Lord tells me, it's like, hey, go talk to that person. I don't know why or what they have to say, but just to be there and listen, and to be near.
And that has to just blow your faith off the roof. I mean, when you see that guy come in,
Yeah,
you didn't know,
Yeah, I remember
for sure.
when we were trying to decide on whether to come to Stephenville to plant that church. We're like, oh, what are the pluses and minuses and all that stuff? And, God doesn't care about your pluses and minuses. He's going to be like, dude, I really want you to go. So we would drive around, and we lived here in Kyle and Butte near Austin, and we would drive around and we would see Tarleton stickers, or I think a couple times we saw some Stephenville High School stickers on the back of these cars that we would never ever notice before. But all of a sudden they were like glowing and really big, and we're like, all right, dude, well, like I guess Cowboy Capital, we're coming.
That's
So
awesome.
that's cool.
And you see words for people. You mentioned
Yeah.
something about like literally see them over them type of deal.
Not over them, but
Yeah.
usually just praying, and the Lord just gives me sometimes thoughts or just thoughts of words, and then I start praying over it, and it's like, all right, that person actually needs to hear this word. So I used to work at Starbucks for a season of life, and while I was working, I had to write words on people's cups just to practice listening. It's called listening prayer.
Yeah.
So listening, and whatever the Lord gives me, write it down. It was a really cool season because like some words didn't mean anything, but some words meant the world to people. And so that was something really cool to walk into, of obedience. And
how did they respond? I mean, when it was for that person, I mean, what did it do to them?
Sometimes I had a full spectrum. I've had people like, why'd you write a word on my cup, to someone completely weeping and crying. So, but most of the time it just became a smile, and it's like, thank you. Or even a thank you for stopping and thinking over me. So
that's super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Super cool. And then, so what's the prayer though? To give me something, give Mike and I something to like take a step in that direction of like listening prayer. I mean, are you just asking the Lord to, I mean, what do you want me to know about this person, or how are you starting that?
yeah, usually I just start praying over the person and just asking the Lord, like, all right, what do you want me to know about the person? What do you want me to be praying over? Is there any struggles that they're going through at the moment? Do I need to be praying over that? What's something that's joyous in their life right now that we can be celebrating, or what we can be worshiping your name? And just listening to that, and be able to take that back to the Lord, and be not be steadfast in love with him, but also be brave and step out in your faith, and don't be afraid to say something that you feel like the Holy Spirit's placed on your heart.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because I think a lot of people probably stop at that step.
Yeah.
Like they have that thought, and maybe they think it's them, maybe they know it's the Lord, but just like doing the practicing, I think a lot of people don't think, I can't because I might be wrong, and I don't want to take that risk of being wrong.
Right.
What would you tell us? I mean, to that?
I would tell you guys to have grace for yourself. Like if you feel like the Holy Spirit is placing something on your heart, definitely one, take it back to the Lord and pray over it. But two, don't be afraid to share it with that person. It might be like in Costa Rica, I have an example of a guy was healed because of a crazy vision that I stepped out and saw or shared it with him. He's like, this that just happened the other day, and he came to Christ and loves Jesus. And then Chase and I went back down to Costa Rica a year ago. And I got to see the guy while I was in Costa Rica. So it was really cool to like see the full
I
circuit.
mean, the fruit of that just obedience and that stepping out was just, I mean, for him, it was everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
a great,
sometimes we're going to say the word because we feel that God's telling us to say whatever it is. We don't know what it means, but we're being prompted to do that, and it may not be for that person at that exact moment. I mean, it could be a week down the road, 3 days down the road, a month down the road, and I think that's always cool. We may never ever see it, so I agree with you totally about the whole grace. If you just feel like they're looking at you weird, you're like, all right, man, well, I did what I was supposed to be doing. I told you what I was supposed to say, and thanks. See ya.
of the words that you, like the Lord has for people that you've been obedient and stepping in and out on. Um, I'm trying to figure out like just the impact that's had on people. Are most of the words like you tell them, is it, does it cause fear? Does it cause, judgment type stuff? Or is it completely opposite of that? I mean, is there a common theme that runs through, you know, I guess what I'm trying to determine, just kind of based on your experience too, is I think a lot of times people might say, I'm afraid to hear because I don't want to give a bunch of judgment words and guilt
Yeah.
words and all that. Is that true though in your experience, or has it been totally opposite?
I've seen a couple different things, but mostly I've seen joy. Um, I've seen people step into joy and experience joy and love for the first time.
Yeah, so it's not like they're walking away thinking they're gonna get hit by a car type of deal. Like,
Right.
yeah. But I mean, and that's a common maybe misconception. So I appreciate you helping me kind of think that out loud.
Yeah.
So tell us about the world race, because at some point you went on the world race, and who, what is that what is that? Who kind of puts that on, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So right after high school, um, I felt like wasn't supposed to be going to school or go to college right after high school. And I really wanted to take a gap year. Um, just to, I wanted to grow my relationship with the Father. Um, and so I took a big leap and went on to this 9-month mission trip where it's called the World Race or Adventures and Missions, and where I traveled around with 50 people, 10 guys and 40 girls, um, for a whole year. Went to Costa Rica, South Africa, Thailand, Myanmar, Hong Kong, Singapore, and a few countries in between. Um, but we would live in different countries for extended periods of time. So I was in Costa Rica for 3 months. I was in South Africa for 3 months. I was in Thailand for 2 months and Myanmar for a month. Where we got to work alongside ministry hosts. We got to live with ministry hosts. We got to go do ministry in that country, either working at helping plant churches or talk at conferences or doing evangelism, going out to communities, doing worship. We just go out into parks sometimes and just talk to people. Um, and the race really shifted how I view God and built my relationship with Him. Like I started hearing from the Lord a lot more because I was stepping into obedience of listening, and a season of life was just so focused on Him. And now I don't ever want to like escape that because I built such a strong relationship with Him.
Mm-hmm.
During those 9 months, I built awesome friendships and a brotherhood with these 10 guys I traveled with, who we got to lead our girls that we were walking with and like stepping into man of God. This was also a season of prayer. I started praying for my future wife at the very beginning of the race, and then halfway through, the Lord actually gave me Chase's name. I had no idea who she was. Um, kind of. I met her at training camp. There's like a week before going out to the field just to teach you basic guidelines of traveling, and for people who've never traveled before, how to live out a backpack, how to rough it for a little while if you need to. And I met her once. She was on crutches, and I helped her carry her backpack in the airport. Um, and she was broken in all senses. But halfway through the race, I started praying and got Chase's name, and then started praying over her name. And in certain seasons that the Lord was placing on my heart to start praying over for her. And I've never talked to her ever since that training camp week. So for 9 months, I was praying for my wife, and then her name halfway through. So for 4.5 months, I was praying over her. And then after the race, we met up, and she actually reached out to me. It's like, hey, are you going to this debrief at the end of when we get back? And I was like, no, I'm not, because I'm going to Young Life camp. But I would like to fly down and meet you down in Texas, because I was living in Colorado at the time. And we met up and we started talking one night, and it's like, hey, I have to tell you something. I've been praying over your name for the past year, and these are the seasons I was praying over. And she just started bawling, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I say? What did I do? She's like, no, it's all good. Like, I've been praying for your name as well. For certain seasons I was walking into, and like the Lord was placing these seasons on her heart, or these times that we were walking through, just to be in prayer over, praying over our spiritual armor and walking into what that is, and learning who our spiritual name is, and just finding our identity in Christ. And then
bring us up to current then. So
now we're engaged, and I'm marrying her in June.
Oh, that's great, man.
So she's gonna be my wife, and
yeah,
I love her a lot, and just being able to continue missions with her is so humbling, because of where we started was out of prayer, and
yeah, absolutely,
we're gonna continue and have Christ at the center of our relationship moving forward.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, like, when you first met her, you know how you see those words and stuff when you meet people and you pray over them. Was it like, she's the one? She's the one.
Yep,
she's the one.
Was. I knew it.
Man,
that's awesome.
You had the cheat code on that one.
Yeah, right.
That's great, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So what's next? So here you are. So now you're in Texas. You're recently out of school. You did a little bit of college, and explain that a little bit, and then kind of bring us up to where you're at, and what you think the Lord has planned for you.
Yeah. So I moved down to Texas after doing long distance with Chase for about 8 months, flying down here twice or 3 times a month, depends on what our work schedules looked like. And now I officially been living in Texas for a year now. And did 2 semesters of school here in Texas. So I went to TCC. And then I went to UTA for a semester, because I felt like I needed to go get an engineering degree. That was something I always wanted to do in high school. So after coming back from the race, I just kind of jumped back into American standards. But then once I got engaged to Chase, I had a conversation with her, and it's like, hey, since we are wanting to step into ministry full time, and with how much school is, I don't think the Lord is calling me to continue school. And so after my semester ended, I didn't sign up for the spring classes. And then we signed up for a discipleship school for our first year of marriage. We're actually going to be moving up to Colorado Springs. where we're going to be with the guy who started YWAM, who also started this program called G42. It's a discipleship that pulls kids from the world race and all over. So
And
the
what do they
guy
do?
from,
They train you.
yeah, so we're gonna go through a couple different classes while we're there. One, it's mostly on how to build businesses international, how to have ministries international. They're prepping us for being international missionaries. So the first 3 months is going to be in a classroom. It's going to break down what ministry looks like, um, and diving deep into what the Bible has to say. And then the second 3 months is going to be, we're actually going to go work with a ministry host. We're going to go out and practice what we learned in the classroom. And then we're going to come back to Colorado Springs, or I think we'll be back in Colorado Springs. And then we'll be back in the classroom. And then we're going to debrief and tear apart, like, all right, this is what we saw out in the field. Let's break it down. Let's see what Jesus has to say about it. How can we grow our faith? And Chase and I are wanting to use this as a stepping stone to get back in. We want to become ministry hosts for World Race. We want to, the Lord's been calling us to Romania. We don't know, neither of us have been to Romania. And so we were just praying when we first started dating and into marriage of where the Lord wants us, and the Lord's been constantly calling us to Romania. We've been building relationships with Romanians. We actually talked to a church planner in Romania a couple of months ago, and I keep in touch with him. So after this first 9 months of going through a discipleship school, we're wanting to move to Romania. And the Lord is wanting us to plant a church in Romania and then also host world racers. And in long term, we want to open up a climbing gym and a coffee shop and a church all in Romania.
And hopefully you will invite me and Micah over to taste your
Everyone's
pop.
welcome.
taste
That's
your-
right. Because I can lead worship. I'll just need to work on my Romanian or whatever language they speak there.
Yeah. So, are you excited about Romania?
I
Or-
am ecstatic about Romania.
And the reason I asked is because when you hear somebody says like the Lord called me to this, I think and sometimes like there's a sense to somebody out on the outside, looking at that saying, "Oh, that'd be terrible. It must be miserable." But it sounds like He's calling you to do something that really just is
Yeah.
exciting to you and lines up with all your passions. And um, yeah. So tell me about that.
Yeah. I'm also terrified too. Like I'm
Yeah.
excited, but terrified. Like I have no idea what the culture is. I don't know any of the language. And I'm just putting my faith in the Lord to be able to guide both Chase and I into this next season. We don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
So we're just literally putting everything in his hands.
Yeah.
So
Tell me a little bit, Nathan, about fundraising. So I'm assuming you guys are going to have to raise some funds or pay for yourself, to get to the school. Is there anything that we can put out? I mean, through this podcast, just to help. Is there a platform at all that anybody who would want to support y'all in
yeah.
that effort can help you?
So we both created a website called the Hutson's blog.
Okay.
Um,
Spell that for me, because I think I've messed your name up before. So spell it out for us.
The Hutson, HUTSON.
Okay.
blog.com.
Okay.
And we do have an Instagram as well, where we just started. We're going to start posting more and more on it, just to bring you guys on our journey with us. Like we are not doing this alone. We want to bring the church which is everyone that we're speaking to with us. And we want to share his glory with you guys and share testimonies. And we're going to put all those testimonies on the blog. We're going to put testimonies on our Instagram story and Instagram feed. And we are excited. We also, we bought a van. It's going to be a venture van. So our first year, we're going to kind of live in the van, not like the rock.
Okay. Yeah.
but-
Okay. There you go.
I sold my truck and we bought a van, and we're gonna use it as like our mobile home. And we're gonna post on our Instagram and blog about our stories that we get to encounter while driving across the country into Colorado and wherever the Lord has us in the next season.
So what's your Instagram?
It's gonna be the Hutson's blog as well.
Oh, okay. Now, if I was wanting to send you some money to support that, is that a tax deductible thing, or is it just going to you guys, or how does this work?
Nope, it's a tax deductible. You can find our donating link in our website or our website in our Instagram. If you scroll down, there's a donate button, and you can press donate and find our picture, Chase and I's face, or Nathan and Chase Hutson, and it will take us right to the donating page. Tax deducted, and it's through a ministry up in
Okay.
Colorado, and the funds are going to them, but they're going to disperse them out to us.
Okay.
And so we have to raise 23,000 for this next year as a married couple.
Okay. Well, man, we'd be honored to hopefully, help in that, and maybe somebody's listening to just identifies with your story and like your future journey to support that. I don't doubt your heart at all and the use of the fund. So it's just an amazing story that you guys are following the Lord into a whole different place you've never been. So it's that's cool, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, we'll put all the website, Instagram, and then the Donately page where they can donate directly to help you guys get through that class.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah. So anything else, Nathan, you wanted to add? And this has been a fascinating story. And I think I swear I still have about 100 rock climbing questions too. But is there anything else, man, you felt led to just share with anybody listening?
Yeah. Whatever, just be brave and listen to what the Lord has for you. Be obedient. And find some brothers and some sisters to encourage you, to walk hand in hand with you. Find a community. With all my traveling, now stopping and building community for the first time ever has been the best thing. So once you're plugged into a community, the more you're going to grow, the more you're going to hear from the Lord. And step into obedience. And when the Lord plays something on your heart to share something, jot it down, pray over it, give it to the person. Even if it's one word or a picture, it could be a random image that the Lord gives you, like a purple hat, and you find someone that has a purple hat, go talk to them, get to know their story, and the Lord's just going to gift you in that, and just worship his name in that.
I mean, it's been worth the risk for you.
Yes.
And the reward is just way far outweighed that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we serve a God who loves and cares and is so kind. He's a healing God as well. So if there's any sickness, I pray healing over them. And
that's great, man. I'm in awe. That's such a great story and such a great testimony for how faithful the Lord's been in your life, and just the incredible things you've experienced at 21. And it seems like he's weaving it all together back in the end, along with your passions and your, just the things you have enjoyed doing. So just really, really good, man. I appreciate you sharing all that with us.
Hey, Storyfield fans. So we thought the episode was over, but we were able to get Chase to sit down and kind of talk with us real quick. You've heard her name throughout the podcast. That's Nathan's fiance. So we thought we would just go ahead and add her a little bit to this episode. So hope you enjoy.
Okay, so we're back on, and we got to have a good surprise that we heard lurking around the background. The girl that we've been talking about, Chase. So welcome to the show, Chase.
Hi.
So I did wanted to ask you about the Romania, about y'all's plans. First to go to the Generation 42 training and then to Romania. So when y'all were praying about that separately, were you saying to the Lord, like, hey, this is where I'm supposed to go, right? Or were you just praying, where do you want me to go? And then it just kept coming up.
How it started, he and I had probably been dating for about a week. I mean, he flew down, met me. We had that weird story of I had been praying over him, he had been praying over me.
So that's true. We can confirm it, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm
just messing with you.
I started bawling. I was like, no way, me too. That happened. And so how he posed it was, or I asked him, I said, so where do we go from here? I've known you for all of maybe 70 hours, if that. And he's like, well, I guess we should pray and then we should probably date. I was like, okay, sounds good. Let's pray. We should start dating. And then he left for a month and didn't have a phone on him because he was doing summer staff for Young Life. And so through that month of not having a phone, we wrote each other letters. And so we kind of were just praying like, Lord, where do you have us? Where do you want this going? The way that we connected wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for you. Like our whole relationship is because of you. And without prayer, there would be no us. So we want to keep you in the center of that. Where do you have us? And just praying wherever you want us to go, we'll go. And I just started jotting down, like when the Lord speaks to me, I just write and it just starts flowing. And then I read it. I'm like, wow, those are for sure not of me. That has to be from the Lord because I would never write those things down. And Romania popped up. I was like, where do you have us? I was like, well, that's weird because I've never thought of it, never really heard of it. So I wrote him in a letter. It's like, hey, this is a country that I think we're supposed to go to. And of course, letters, it's not like you see it until like a week later. And so he had written me and we both were like, yeah, Romania is it. And I was terrified because like, I don't know anything about it, but I know that if the Lord's calling us there, we're going to be safer there than we are in the States. Mm-hmm. Because if he's called us somewhere else, we're supposed to be obedient to that and he's going to be faithful and protect us. Mm-hmm. If we choose to do something our own for ourselves, it's going to be much more unsafe than whatever he could call us into. So it's just one of those things where it's scary, but you have this overwhelming piece of if I just let go, he's going to catch me and he's going to take care of it. So there was no wishing and hoping for Romania. It kind of was just like, here you go. You can either receive it or you're still going to have that calling and it's going to be painful to not receive it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, so I saw with the Generation 42, essentially you guys need to raise almost $24,000 for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure so we can, so that me and Josh and everybody that's listening to this can just pray that those funds just show up.
Yeah.
Without worry, without stress, without anything. Because if God's given you Romania to go to, then after this whole leadership thing, then let's just make sure this leadership thing is paid for so you can go ahead and get to Romania.
Right.
Because there's people there who are waiting. So do y'all have a town kind of in mind or a city, or is it just you're just going to be praying through that and just see kind of where it ends up?
We've been praying and we have a general area that we're going to start in because of connections, but we want to definitely go to the country and prayer walk the country, see different parts and really see where the Lord has us and needs us.
So the connection that we have, they already have a world race base like the hosts do. And so that's who we've been in contact with, Raul. And we kind of just told him what's been placed on our hearts of wanting to build a climbing gym and a coffee shop and for being a world race host, you have ministries that you plug the kids into. It's like for us, it'd be the climbing gym and the coffee shop. The racers would work in our climbing gym and coffee shop and use that as their ministry. So through doing that, you kind of need to know how one to run it. And so Raul, he already has that all established. And so we would get to go visit him and see how he's done it. And just ask him for advice, ask him what ways work, what ways don't. And it was super cool because we actually got to speak with him over FaceTime, and we kind of told him what our vision was. And he just was in complete shock and awe. He's like, we've been praying for a married couple to do this for 3 years now. And to hear that there's a couple that's wanting to go do this, he's like, it's showing the Lord is working, that prayers haven't gone unanswered. It just might not be in the timing that you would want it to be, but in his.
That just sounds fascinating. I bet that just encouraged him beyond what we could say. I mean, just amazing. Well, I have no doubt you guys are going to have a fun and adventuresome and fruitful marriage. So thanks, Chase, for letting us bring you on and ask you a few questions. So we appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on, and sorry for all of the ruckus in the background.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, thank you too. Really, really grateful for you guys and your hearts. So.
Hey, this is Micah. Me and Josh would like to thank you for joining us in the Storyfield today. We hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and to learn more about us and the Storyfield, visit thestoryfield.com. This podcast is sponsored by the Allen Firm, legal guides for many of life's situations. To learn more about the Allen Firm, visit allenlawfirm.com. Have a blessed day, week, and year, and we will see you next time on the Storyfield.
This is Josh again. I just wanted to thank you for listening and let you know that this podcast is really about hope and about giving you hope for your life. So if you're listening and you're in a place where you're really feeling hopeless right now, or if you do not know Jesus, we have some great news to share with you and would love a chance to pray for you. Email us at hope@allenlawfirm.com. That's hope@allenlawfirm.com, and we'll reach out to you soon. Thank you for listening. God bless you.